Good morning. My name is Megan Bollendorf, and I'm a student teacher candidate at Grand Canyon University, and I will be conducting today's IEP meeting this morning. Thank you for attending Michael Lopez's annual IEP meeting and end of the year review. In today's meeting, we will go over the IEP agenda, introductory to all participants in the meeting, talk about Michael's 2021-22 academic school year, along with his goals and objectives. Prior to Michael's IEP meeting starting, I passed out an agenda for everybody to review and look over before we get started. I would like to introduce everybody that's a part of the meeting. You can take a look at their descriptions and their role. So first we have our principal, Mrs. Conway. We have Michael's general education teacher, Miss Springer. We have Michael's special education teacher, Mrs. Brown. We have myself, Mrs. Bollendorf, as a student teacher candidate at Grand Canyon University. We have our school psychologist, Dr. Farmer, Michael's speech therapist, Mrs. Shepard, and a member of our child study team, Mrs. Tesner. Also, we have Michael's mother here, Valerie Lopez. The purpose of this IEP meeting today is to go over Michael's current level of performance. We will discuss his goals and objectives moving into the next school year, review his scores, testing scores, and determine appropriate accommodations, go over state testing information along with his placement for next year. Eligibility of services will be discussed. We will summarize everything we talked about before signing the IEP attendance sheet at the end of the meeting. Also, we encourage everybody to have input. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to discuss them. His present level of performance, we want to know what his strengths are. We want to go over his weaknesses, as far as goals and objectives, what he has mastered so far in his initial IEP. What do we want the student to understand and know before the next IEP meeting? So we're going to look over that. His services, specific modification and accommodations for Michael, his placement, related services that he's receiving, and about the extended school year. So Michael's IEP classification is that he is eligible for speech and language services because he's communicationally impaired. Having the opportunity myself to observe and work with Michael over the last 15 weeks, I just want to give some input on my part. Michael is a pleasure to have in class. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to meet him and work with him and teach him this school year. So Michael has many great ideas that he truly loves to share with his teachers. He benefits from working in a small group. In addition to teacher prompting and guidance, Michael works well with an outline of requirements to organize his thoughts. In reading, during small group reading, Michael works well with his group and contributes positively. He enjoys the various topics we have studied and read about this year. His interests seem to be about science, animals, and bibliographies. He did have STAR testing this year. He had a test in mid-September, and he was retested in January, and I have the scores listed in his IEP for both reading and math. For math, Michael is very strong in math. He is able to read word problems and determine which operations should be used for each problem. Michael understands place values while using a chart at the table that we actually sent through Google Classroom. All his visuals, he really benefits from having visuals. So we did send, he has access to all visuals that he needs, such as like a multiplication table, place value chart, which he can access through Google Classroom since we are virtual on Zoom this school year due to the global pandemic. He needs to refer to them for the visuals, especially for decimal and place value lessons. Michael's able to divide and multiply decimals by 1 and 2 digits. When dividing, Michael benefits from having a visual card to remind him of the steps. He also benefits from having access to a multiplication table. With access to these materials, Michael is able to work on his math independently, although he needs prompting and reminders to focus on his work. Michael is most successful when he has a checklist of tasks, so he knows, what exactly needs to be done for the day. And I also have some input from his his speech therapist, Mrs. Shepard. She describes Michael as a funny social fourth grader, and that during the 2020 and 2021 academic school year, Michael received speech and language services to address his vocal R productions. In February of 2021, Michael was reevaluated to see if he continues to meet the qualifications for speech education services. Based on the educational and speech language assessments, his classification switched to eligible for speech and language services. This was based on the scores earned in his articulation assessment. So he was given an articulate assessment. He still is eligible for speech and language services. Right now, he receives 30 minutes of speech once per week virtually, which he seems to be doing very good with. We set, certain goals were set for him to master and different percentages, which is all listed in his IEP. So he seems to be on track and doing well. And this will carry over into the next school year, 2021-2022 academic school year, when he moves into the middle school, 5th grade. It will look a lot different for him next year. He will move into, he will actually be in person in the classroom, and his speech therapies will also be pushed into the classroom. And he will also be pulled out for speech therapy. So he will be in an inclusion classroom with 2 teachers next year for extra support. So he will be with a special ed teacher and a general education teacher for 5th grade. Looking over Michael's goals and objectives for speech, Michael will improve speech production of the following sounds. By the end of the IEP, Michael will produce all R and vocal R sounds in oral reading with 80% accuracy independently as measured by the anecdotal records / checklist. Michael will produce all R and vocal R sounds in structured, unstructured conversational speech within the speech room independently with 80% accuracy as measured by the anecdotal records and checklists. Michael will increase awareness of intelligibility of own speech. Michael will demonstrate self-monitoring and self-correction skills at an increasing rate in conversation independently with 80% accuracy as measured by the anecdotal records and checklists. I also just want to go over the modifications and accommodations. We hope to fade this going into the 2021-2022 academic school year. But as of right now, he will continue assignments in small group if requested. We'll have the options of audiobooks, breakdown, repeat instructions if requested, graphic organizers available, and preferable seating. So as of right now, they are his modifications. But like I said, we will hope going into 5th grade that we can start to gradually fade these accommodations for Michael. As we wrap up this IEP meeting, I just want to thank everybody for, again, attending Michael's IEP, end of the year review. I appreciate you all being here. I know this has been a very trying year for everybody, especially entering and now coming out of a global pandemic. Next year will look a lot different. Come the fall, we'll be in person in the classroom. Michael will be receiving services for speech in classroom, as well as being pulled out to the speech room. If you have any questions or concern, please feel free to bring them to my attention or anybody here to discuss, and we will come up with with the best way to help Michael succeed and grow in a safe, positive learning environment. Thank you all again.